Okay, normally when I show you a project, it's semi-finished like this. So you've got your ESP32 here, it's connected up, it's running, it's drawing the little tree over here. So it's kind of a finished product, but that's not the way that these modules. That's not the way they come. They actually come like this. Okay, so there's the module in there, and then you've got some header pins and some cables, and so you have to assemble this thing, and then once you get it assembled, then you've got to load MicroPython on there, and you've got to get it going. So in this video, I'm going to show you how to take this and get it ready to do something like this. Okay, so we will get this out, we'll solder it up, and we'll load Python on there, and we'll get it all ready to go. So from here to there, and I'll be using my how big my hands look, huge, with this new camera that I showed you in a few videos ago. I made a holder for it that looks like this, and it's kind of like a big heat sink because it was getting hot, but now it stays nice and cool, and it mounts up, and I can put it on my tripod. So anyway, so let's get going. Alright, so we're starting out with this, okay, and what the other things we're going to need besides the development module and is a USB cable. Alright, so this is a micro USB. This goes into your computer. That goes in right into the ESP32. There's a connector right there, and that will power it. I'll be using a USB 3 port, which will handle 900 milliamps. I think a USB 2 port only handles 500 milliamps. So we'll be powering the ESP32, and we'll also be powering some Neopixels, and we'll just do it right off the USB. Now this has to be a data cable. It can't be just a charging cable. You got to be able to transfer data from the computer to get this thing set up. Okay, so we got to have that, and we'll use this little breadboard just so we can put some stuff on there. This was actually my first breadboard I got maybe in 1990, 1991 from Radio Shack. See the Archer logo? I don't even know if Radio Shack's in business anymore, but I used to get a lot of parts there. This is way before the internet, right? But I didn't even know what this thing was for, really. But I saw it, and I kind of thought I knew what it for, but I actually had to peel the back off of it to see how the sockets connected. I really had no idea. But anyway, it's been abused. You see that? Solder burns. It's been burned up. I've overheated a lot. I've burned up a lot of components, but it still works. So we'll use that. Now let's see. I also have LED, little blue LED. Remember, long side is the anode. That's the positive, and the short lead is the negative, the cathode. So we'll use that. We'll blink it a little bit. I've got some resistors. These are 1/4 watt resistors. This one is brown, black, red. So that's 10. Red is 2 zeros we add to it, and then it's gold. So this is a 1,000 ohm resistor, and the gold means that it's a 5% tolerance. So we'll use these with this LED so we don't overcharge it or over amp it. And then we also, I'll show you what we'll do with the other ones later. I've also got this, which is just a strip of Neopixels. So we've got 4 Neopixels. These strips can be cut right here at that line, and then you can solder them together and make them longer or use short ones. And this one I just soldered a 3-pin header on it, and that'll plug in right there. So we can use that to do a little experimenting. And since we're going to do that, I've got a couple of leads that we can plug into here. Whoa. We can plug into there and connect a few things up. And that's about all that we need. I don't know if I have any other. Oh, I got this. Here's a big lens I got out of a projection TV. I have no use for this right here, so I'll put that over here. And I got, oh, here's a coaster. Look at that. Elcian Space Dust IPA. This is a hop with space dust. To me it looks like a barfing artichoke, but that's not what it is. Anyway, and then here's a, my daughter gives me these. Here is this is from Bozeman, Montana. So, Bozone. Join the Bozone. Okay, anyway, that's all. We don't need anything else. So, that's what we need. Okay. Okay, let's start out by opening this thing up. Now, this is about a $6 ordered from, I ordered them, they're from eBay. They cost about $6 or $7. You can order them from China or Malaysia or different places like this. So this is actually what they call a development board, because it has all the stuff that you need already on there, so to speak. So it's got the ESP32 is actually only this part right here. So this part covered with the cap, and then here's the antenna right here, and then these are all the pins. Let me see if we can see. These are all the pins coming off of it. Not the holes, but down in there. See how that's where all the pins come off of it. Okay. And then you've got your USB connector. You've got, is this, let me see how, yeah, okay. So here's the USB connector. And then here's a reset button. It's already set on there. That is, I believe that is the serial connector that converts the USB input to serial to talk to this. So that's all in there. This is a where you can connect a LiPo battery. So it actually has a charging circuit, and there's an LED right there that indicates whether it's charging or not. And let's see, it has a built-in LED right here, which is connected to pin 13, and we'll use that in a little while. We'll flash that LED. And what else does it have? Oh, okay, so you got 5 volts coming in here. This thing runs on 3.3, so it has voltage converters to handle all of that for you. And you can get 3 volts out of that pin right there. There's your ground pin. You can get there's your battery connection, and that USB connection right there where it says USB, that's where you get your 5 volts off. So you can get 5 volts, 3 volts, and your ground. I mean, so this has all sorts of things built into it, and then you've got all your pin connectors. So we won't be using this right now, but this actually plugs in right there if you wanted to connect a LiPo battery. No, maybe it goes this way. Nope, it goes this way. Okay, now one problem that I have had is that you would think that these wires would be right, but they're not. I've had it where these were reversed, and I had to, I'm not sure about this one, but I had to swap these wires to get the red and the black the right way. They just had inserted them. So this works kind of like a DuPont connector. You can push those little tabs, or lift those little tabs and pull these out, swap them around. So check that and see. Now here's your header pins. This one fits on this side like that, and this one fits over here like that. Now if you're going to be putting this in a breadboard like we're going to do, then you want to put them like this. Okay, now if you were going to mount this, like on some projects I do, I want to mount this to a board, and then I want to plug, let's say I want to plug DuPont connectors to this, then I might want to solder them this way. Okay, so think about that before you solder it up, because it's a real hassle to unsolder these things. Actually, I wouldn't unsolder it. I would just buy a new one, because they're only $6. The bottom is nice. It tells you, you know, has the labels on all that kind of stuff. Is that, you know, you can do all that. Okay, so we're going to solder it up this way. Okay. And then once we get this soldered up, then we'll be ready to load Python onto it, or MicroPython onto it, and get going. Okay. Of course, you know that I am not going to do a project without some super glue. So here's a little trick just to get started. I'm going to take this and just put the tiniest amount of super glue right there and right there. Not, I mean, just barely any. And then I'm going to take my pin headers, since I'll be soldering on the top. I've got the super glue on the bottom. I'm going to put my pin header in there and line it up. Make sure it's exactly the way that I want it. Oop, don't let it rock. And I'm going to hold it here for a second, and it will hold it in place, and then you'll see how easy it is to solder it up once I do that. So let me hold this for a second until it dries up or sets. Then I'm going to do the other side, and we'll get ready to solder. Okay, now we're all set up to solder. I got my solder right here in the yogurt cup. It comes out a hole in the top there. This isn't a solder instruction video, I'm just letting you know. And then I have my very dirty Radio Shack. I've obviously had this a long time. I like to use a really dirty soldering iron. And I'm just going to set this into this breadboard to hold it in place, and while I solder these things on there. And I think I'll put this up on here and we can get a close-up going so you can get a better view. Alright, here's some down and dirty soldering. So I'm going to wet my tip a little bit, and then I'm going to hit this one and make sure I got a good solder there, and then I'm going to come all the way down here and hit this one, make sure it flows there. Alright, got good joints, and then I'm just going to work my way down, make sure I get a good hot joint all the way down on this side. Got a can over here that I tap off the excess as I go. And one more there. Yep. Quick look at all those. They all look like good joints. Maybe run down them one more time. Nah, I don't see any cold joints on there. So we'll spin it around. And I'm going to do the same thing here. I'm going to hit one on this end. And then I'm going to hit one on this end. Alright, tap off my extras. And then let's just run right down here. Flow to solder. Now you remember the trick is you got to put the soldering iron where it's hitting the pad and the pin. They both have to be hot. If they're not both hot, it's not going to flow. Alright, and then of course the second thing is get it done and move on, because you don't want to overheat things. And don't worry about the extra solder. You need the extra solder because that tap, I'm just tapping it off on a can. You need the extra solder because it gives you the extra rosin or flux that you need to make things stick well. See, so I'm getting a lot of extra solder Then all that flux makes it stick. Alright, it's that fast. I can't see because my eyes are old, but let me just, everything looks good. Oh no, that one needs a little bit more for my liking. There we go. Now, a lot of people will want to take this rosin off, but I'm of the opinion of nah, why bother? It doesn't hurt anything. It protects the thing. Now I'm going to inspect it right quick before I put my soldering iron away. Make sure I don't have any cold joints. Nope, all the joints look good. So let's go with that. Good to go. We're done. Okay, now we're all soldered up. And if you're using lead solder, then you need to go and wash your hands. Don't put your fingers in your mouth or anything like that. Okay, and now what I'm going to do is put this onto the breadboard. Now, I'm lining it up because this is a tiny breadboard, so we just have a little bit of space right here to experiment with. But we need to have at least one row free over here and some rows free over here so we can connect some things to it. And then I'm just, yep, so we got one on top, two down here. So I'm just lining it up all the way over. And then when you put it in, you want to push it down on the pins. Don't push down over here because you can bend the circuit board and break these things loose. Okay, crack the soldering joints and that sort of stuff, and you don't want to do that. So you want to pin it down or push it down on the pins and get that thing seated in there. Okay, now my power so we're good here. It's all, everything's seated down in there the way that it should be. And then here's the power. Now if you notice on, oh well, I put it up, but a lot of my projects you'll see that I strap this down, because if these get damaged from the cable bending around, so just be careful with that. Alright, so I'm going to plug it in, and if you can see, we got a little LED blinking here. On this particular module, that is the charge indicator. So it's trying to do some charging because it thinks that the battery is not charged because there is no battery. So what I'm going to do is take one of these 1000 ohm resistors and I'm going to connect it from, let's see if you can see these things even. Okay, that pin is the USB pin, so that's 5 volts. That is the battery positive pin. So if I connect this from the USB pin to the battery positive pin, it thinks that the battery has 5 volts on it. The charger shut off. Okay, so we got nothing going on right there. Alright, so now we're powered up. We're ready to go. We're ready to load Python on here. So the first thing we'll do, we'll get MicroPython loaded, and once we get that loaded and run on the command line and all that sort of stuff, then we're going to blink that LED. That'll be the first thing we do. Alright, so let's move over to the computer and start working from there. Okay, I am using Lubuntu, which is a version of Ubuntu, which is, a derivative of Debian. Okay, so I will be doing it that way, getting this software and all that stuff, but everything that I do here should work for other operating systems as well. Very similar. Okay, now the first thing that you've got to do is get a program called ESP Okay, and that is actually made by the manufacturer of the ESP32, and it is what we use to load the operating system onto the ESP32. Now the way that we get that is by using the Python installation application called pip. Okay, and So you'll have to install pip. So here was how I would install pip: sudo apt-get install Python 3 pip. I happen to already have pip installed, so I don't need to install pip, but if you did, then that would be how you do it. Okay, and then once you have pip installed, then you're going to install the ESP tool using pip. So I'm using Python 3, of course, so I'm using pip 3, so the command is just pip 3 install ESP tool. And it tells me, hey, you've already got that stuff installed, so why bother? And the answer is, yeah, why bother? Okay, so now you've got pip3 installed, and then you installed the installation of the ESP tool. Then the next thing that we've got to do is go and get the bin file, or the binary file that has the operating system. So we go to MicroPython. Okay, just search for that. There it is, right there. And we just go to the downloads. So here are the downloads, your options. Go to the ESP32. And what we want is one of these standard things. Unless you know what you have, don't worry about that other stuff. So just want one of these standard ones. This was the first, when they went to 1.1, that was a big change there. So that's the one that we'll get. So we'll save that file there. And notice that they give us some advice about how we need to install this. So first we need to erase the flash, and then when we install, we use the ESP tool, and we need to start at address 1000. If you don't start at address 1000, it won't work. So just as simple as that. So these are the exact commands that we'll use. Okay, so now that we have that downloaded, here it is right here. Then we'll pop back over here to the command line, and we will do what they told us to do. So let me put that command in there. Now, one thing you have to do is tell it where you are. So in my case, I'm at USB 0, but if I had multiple USB things in there, I might be at USB 1 or something like that. So on maybe on Windows, you're going to have to tell it which COM port you're using. So but figure out which port you're on, and then run the ESP tool and tell it to erase the flash. And there it goes. So it's erasing the flash. Once you've done this one time, you don't have to erase the flash every time you update the operating system, but it's not a bad idea, just to clear everything out. Okay, so now the flash is erased. We are ready to put the operating system in there. So here's our command, ESP tool. We're telling it the ESP32. Here's the port again. It's for me it's USB 0. Write flash, and then this Z command tells it which address to start at. So we're putting in the 1000, and then this is the bin file that we want to run. Okay. All right. So it's connecting, and there it goes. So while that is doing that, let's pop back over here. And the MicroPython, you want to go and look at the docs, because they just redid everything, and you can go to this quick reference right here for the ESP32, and it will kind of go through all the things you need to do to get going. Okay. There's even installation stuff and all that sort of thing. So that's just in the docs things. There's tons of good stuff. They've just redone it, and it is it's a lot better organized and that sort of thing. Okay, we're 80% done. Blah blah blah. Blah blah blah. Blah blah blah. and bingo. Okay, so now we have MicroPython installed on our ESP32. And if we look at our ESP32, oh, it doesn't look any different. Okay, so now that we got MicroPython installed on there, the next thing we've got to do is connect to this thing through the USB cable using a serial connection. Okay. Now, if you are running Linux, then you've got to add yourself to the dialout group. So, yeah, I should add myself, not my username. I was cutting and pasting from my notes. Okay. Hey, I'm already a member of the dialout group. So dialout is what allows you to work with the COM ports. Okay. Now on Linux, if you first time add yourself to the dialout group, you need to sign out and sign back in or reboot or something like that. Okay. Now, just for good measure, because we're going to be using I'm going to show you how to use a tool that I use, and it uses this. So we use pip3 to install pyserial, and pyserial is just something that you can use to serially communicate with a lot of stuff. So it's good to have anyway. Now I've already installed it, so it doesn't want to install it again. And then finally, there's all kinds of things that you can use to work with your serial port, but I use, and they recommend this on the website, is to use picocom. It's just a really tiny, easy command line thing to use. Okay, of course I've already installed it, so it's already there. Okay, so now that picocom's installed and I am a member of the dialout group, or I have permissions to use the ports, then we can now just connect. So this is the baud rate that the REPL or REPL, it's the connection that they use. This is the baud rate that it uses, and of course you have to tell it where to look, and I'm at USB 0, and I hit it and it's connected up. It says that the terminal is ready. Okay, now we have Python right here, so we're at the Python prompt. We can print 3 plus 3, and the answer is 6. We can import OS. If you know anything about Python, you know what that is. We can get oh no, that's not what I want. There you go. So we can see what's available. So the only program that is written on there is boot.py. Okay, so just all the regular things. Now, if you need to reset, you have a couple of options. Okay, one is on this board. Almost all dev boards, there's a button right there. Okay, that's your reset button. So if we were looking here and I push the reset button, you would see that it goes into a full hard reset. Okay, the other option you have, of course, you know that Control-C breaks any commands, and then if you do a Control-D, it goes through what they call a soft. So here it says it did a soft reboot. Okay, so Control-D will cause it to reboot, or the reset button will cause it to do a full hard reboot. Okay, it does more stuff. Okay, now, what can we do? All right, how about we let's blink that pen. Like I said, on this particular board, there's a pen right here, or there's a LED. Let me see if you see that. There's a tiny little LED right in there next to the USB port, and that is connected to pin 13 over here, and we can blink that thing. All right, so just as a first go around, let's blink that. So there is a module called machine, and it has a submodule called pin. So let's do from machine import pen. Okay, yeah, I misspelled that. Okay, import pen. Alright, now we'll use the variable p and we'll say that equals pen, and we know it's pen 13 and we want it to be an output. Okay, so p pen 13 output, and now we can assign a value to that, p dot value 1. Now when I hit that, actually let's get this up where we can see it. Alright, so we're looking at that little LED right there, and when I say value 1, that's going to turn it on. Ta-da! And then we can do value 0 and it goes off. And we can do 1 again and it goes on, and we can do value 0 and it goes off. Okay, so very, very exciting how that works. Alright, I'll just leave that like that for now. Okay, now that's really nice, but what we really want to do is load some programs up, right? Because we don't want to just sit there and do command line stuff on there. We want to load some programs. So here's a couple of programs that I have. I got this one called Blinker, and it's a real simple program. It's just going to initiate or instantiate pin 13 as an output, just like we did, and then it's going to turn it on, and it's going to print that it turned it on, and it's going to turn it off, and it's going to turn it on, turn it off, and it's got a half-second duty cycle, right? Okay. Now we want to load this thing up. Well, we could type this out and all that, but I don't want to do that. So what I've got is a program that is it runs right over the serial line, and it will just load these things up. So I just have to tell it. This is just a little Python script. It uses pyserial. That's why we installed pyserial earlier. Okay, so I just have to tell it what port I want it. No, I don't want a file system. Don't want to go here, and I just want to load up boot. I'm going to load up main. I'll go ahead and load up Blinker, and I'll go ahead and load up Pixeler, and we'll use those in a minute. Now the way that so I've got boot, main, Pixeler, and there's Blinker right there. So those are our 4 scripts. Now the way that the reason we're going to load up boot and main is what happens on reset is that first it runs boot. Now I don't have anything in boot, it's just notifying that boot's been run, but this is your low-level stuff like setting up the network and that sort of, getting connected to Wi-Fi. That is what boot does. So if there's a boot program, or a boot script, it'll run it, and then it'll look for the main script. And again, I don't have anything in here. We'll put something in main in just a little bit, but I don't have anything here. But after boot, it runs the main script if it exists, and then you can import these other things and run them. Okay, so now we're connected up using picocom, and we want to get out of picocom. So to do a command feature in picocom, you do Control A, and then to get out you do Control X. So I just did Control A, Control X. Thanks for using picocom, and we're out of there. Okay, now I've already set up. I told it what I wanted to do, and so now I'm just going to use Python 3. Wrong. To run that script we just looked at, and there it's loading main or boot main. It loaded the Blinker and the Pixeler, so it's just sending that stuff right up there. And then now we're going to use picocom. We're going to connect right back up. So the terminal is ready. let's import OS, and then we'll do os.list here and see what we got. Yep, so now we've got boot, we've got main, we've got blinker, and we've got pixeler that we can use. Okay. Now, if we did Control D, it's going to first run boot, then it's going to run main, and then nothing else is going to happen. Okay, so that we did a soft reboot. Here's where it tried to run boot, there was nothing in there. It tried to run main, there's nothing in there, and now we're ready to go. So let's import blinker. Okay, blinker has loaded because we told it to write load when it loaded. And then let's just do, what was it? It was blinker.blink. Okay, and let's pop the screen back up there. And when I tell it to run, it should go. And there it goes. Okay, so that's our first script that we've run. We're running blinker. Okay, so it's just saying pin 13 on off, on off, on off. And then of course when we want to be done with that, we do a Control C, and I put a catch in there, a try except, so that it doesn't throw an error. Okay, so there we go. Now let's say that we wanted to do that at the start. We could just open up main. Okay, and we just write import blinker and blinker.blink. Okay, so as soon as boot will run, and then main will run, and when main runs, that's what it's going to do. It's going to import blinker, and then it's going to run blinker.blink until we hit the Control C. Okay, so let's exit out of here. Control A, Control X, that gets us out of PicoCom. Let's rerun replace, or replace, or replace, or what. Anyway, we're replacing all those scripts. We didn't have to replace all of them. We could have just replaced main. Okay, and then we'll connect back up, and terminal's ready. Let's do a soft reboot. Okay, actually let's pop it back up. We'll do a soft reboot, and when we do the soft reboot, then it will run main. Well, it'll run boot, then it'll run main, and when it runs main, it'll do the import that we want. Okay. Okay, so there it goes. There was our soft reboot. Ran boot, ran main, loaded blinker, and there we go. Blinker, 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 and it's blinking away. Okay. Simple enough. Okay, and then when I hit Control C, there's nothing left for it to do. It interrupts, there's nothing left for it to do, and we're done. Okay? Now let's make this bigger, and let's add a little electronics to it. Okay? Now, what we'll do is, let's say we'll come, now we can look at these pins, and this is our ground. So what we'll do is we'll run this ground over to the bus. So this is a bus right here. So we'll run the ground to there, and then let's I'm going to take this resistor off for now, and we're going to run the USB since we only have one set of pins over here. Let's run the USB to the bus as well, and so that's giving us negative, negative here, and we got 5 volts here. Okay, and then we can take the battery and fake out that it's charged up by putting that wrong pin. Hold on a second. We gotta be able to see these things. Okay, so we got that blinker to shut off. Okay, so let's say we wanted to blink this baby right here, this little blue LED. Okay, well, we can stick it right here. Now remember, I was doing it backwards. Short pin is the negative, the cathode. Long pin's the anode, the positive. So we'll blink it on the positive. So we can put it right here. And then we need a resistor. We don't want to put 5 volts to that LED. It'll burn it up, right? So let's put a 1000 ohm resistor. We could go lower than that, but because most of the time a little LED like that will handle 20 milliamps, but this will only allow 5 milliamps to go through there at 1000, you know, using Ohm's law or whatever that's called. And then since we are coming out of pin 13, which is right there, we'll run that over to here. Okay, now we don't need to go back to the terminal to do this thing. We can just hit the reset button, right? And there we go, we got these things blinking together. Alright, so this just happens to be hooked up the same way as that. Alright, but that's how you would blink a pin if you didn't have that. So you would just come from the pin that you're using, pin 13 here, to your LED, through your LED, make sure you got your anode and cathode set up right. Got to use a resistor. Use Ohm's law to figure out what, and then that goes to negative, and now you're blinking away. Okay, so there's that. Now let's set up the Neopixels. Alright, so we'll undo that, take this out, and we are going to move to pin 12. Okay, we'll just let that continue to blink. We don't need to worry about that. So pin 12, I've got the program, the NeoPixel test program is on pin 12. Okay, so that's the signal out. Now we could run this through a resistor, but I think you need about a 470 or something like that. But don't worry about that. Okay, so here we've got ground pin, signal in, and the 5-volt pin. Alright, so let's stick this baby right here. Well, no, put it right there. Alright, so this is our input. Here, let's use a different color. Okay, 13, here's 12. I'm going to run that to the center. That's the input. Alright, and the reason I want to use a different color is because I've got to put the 5 volts here, and I'll use the same color. So I'm running that. I'm just going to hook that to the bus. And then we got to get some negative to it. So we'll use that pin right there, and we'll hook that to the bus over here. Okay? And we got a little signal running there. Don't worry about that right now. Alright, now what I'm going to do, just to make it easier to film, I'm going to put this little piece of paper over here, because it can get really difficult to see, film and see these things, but this will kind of mute it out. Actually, let me move this pin back to kind of hold it in place. There we go. Alright, that ought to allow us to see something. I'm going to turn that light out. Okay. Okay, so we got that going. Let me make this small again. Up there. And then I'll tell you what, why don't we just edit our main. Okay, so we'll leave the blinker on. So the first thing that will happen is it'll blink, and then once we cancel that out, oh, you can't see this, hold on. Okay, so we'll leave the blinker in there, and then we'll import Pixeler, and we will run pixeler.runner, and that's that, and we're going to run it on pin 12, and we've got 4 pixels on there, so that should do it. So let me save that. Okay, and then let's get this thing going, and we'll do a Control C. Oh, let's hook. We need to hook back up. And then we'll run that again. And there we go. We're loading everything up. And let's connect back up so we can see what's going on. Terminal's ready. Let's do a Control D to do a soft reboot. And let me get this up where we can see it. Okay, so there's our flashing light. Now when we do Control C, it's going to kill that routine, and it's going to then go over to the pixel routine that we wanted to run. Okay, so here we go. Control C is going to kill that, and now we're running. And it's just going to go through a series of colors and run those neopixels that we had there. Okay, now that's it. We got this thing loaded, or we got it open, we got it soldered, we got the programs we need loaded to our computer. Now we loaded the operating system. We went through how you can run it command line, and then we uploaded these programs or scripts, and we run the scripts, and you know, that's it. That's how you get started on this thing. Okay, I will put a package together of all this stuff, all the things. So I will put I'll put a package together of all of these blinker. Well, so boot, main, blinker, pixeler, and the replace program. And then you can download the latest version of the bin file from the website when you go up there. So look for the link down below, and good luck with this thing. Okay, let's get okay, so we're just flashing those. See, if I take this off, you can see it, you just can't see the colors as well. Okay, now you can look through that pixeler script and see more how that thing's running. But there you go, there you have it, cooking with gas, ESP32.